Hello, Skoggul here. We're doing another FOE Training Grounds game. We're going to do Akali, who's an assassin, versus Gragas, who can kind of roam and farm, and that's his main role here. So, what we're going to focus on first is Akali and what she brings to the table and what makes her a good assassin. It's the Blood Moon Akali skin, if you're curious. And it's Mark of the Assassin that puts out a good amount of magic damage, and if you hit him with an auto attack, it does it again. And the Shadow Dance that lets you jump to people. Your Crescent Slash isn't exactly the best, because if you use it, you run out of energy, so you can use it to harass or to sustain, but not more than that. Attack damage at 69 and ability power at 24 is how you proc her passive, and her passive gives Spell Vamp and magic damage on her auto attack. So she suffers by getting less armor, but the 2 Spell Pen on Akali means that is the setup she's going for that gives her the free Spell Vamp. So if you're playing against Akali, watch for that. And when you look at Nautilus, that's her jungler. He brings a ton of CC, making it fairly easy as an assassin to lock someone down and kill them. The Dredge line will pull them in and stun them briefly. Titan's Wrath does that damage over time. Riptide is a slow. Death Charge is a knockup. And Staggering Blow is the root that comes just from an auto attack. And that's kind of what he brings, so coupled with an assassin, he's a great jungler. He has a 9 MP regen per 5, a lot of armor and magic resist, and no spell pen, so he's got 0 points into offense, and his reds are not offensive. He does have some decent movement speed, and he's a slow champion, so he could have put some of his either his masteries or his quints there. And then you have Gragas. Gragas is a farmer, and he likes to roam and gank. And he's got the barrel roll, which makes him farm really well. Drunken Rage gives him some good sustain. Body Slam is what he uses to jump over walls or get in position, and his ult knocks people around into the positions he wants them to be. So that's what Gragas does. He has 22 ability power, and that's quite a bit early, meaning his quints probably went there. His MP regen per 5 means he either put something into the utility tree or has some masteries going that way, or some runes. He has 9 spell vamp pen, which means that's his reds. And his magic resist is low, so he either went with AP there, or he went with the scaling magic resist. And your enemy jungler is the sad robot Amumu, who has his bandage toss, which will warp onto you and can stun you. It has Despair, which cries, and that's really good at melting tanks. It's not necessarily scary for you, but it's good in the front lines. Great move. Tantrum adds to that, and Curse of the Sad Mummy is how he wins team fights, jumps in and stuns everybody. So that is what Amumu does and brings to the table here. So a lot of ability power and red spell pen, so looks at a lot of armor and a lot of ability power, and he went boots, so that means he has yellow and defense tree armor, and the spell pen is where his reds went. So that is the game we are looking at, and now we're starting to move around and see where this takes us. And what you got to watch for here is, one, Yorick's already shoved to the tower, so Shyvana could either be buying or roaming. That's what Shyvana does. Whenever you're mid, again, their top laner's a Shyvana or someone who pushes out fast, be wary of ganks early, because you don't have wards out yet. So that's one thing that this Akali does not do a great job of, but does an excellent job this game overall. Tries to trade with Gragas, but it's a hard task until you get at least 2 or so points. And so she's going to use Shroud to try to get away from this, and Gragas goes to cut her off, and Nautilus comes in, allowing that escape, and she doesn't want to go back and meet Gragas in her jungle, so she goes the other way and instead accidentally finds a Shyvana, and that's what I was talking about with the stuff earlier, is Shyvana had pushed clear to the tower, so Yorick's just trying to reset the lane, and she's able to come gank. And that's an unfortunate thing for Akali. She did use the Shroud correctly. It just didn't work out because of the situation where Shyvana pushed. And so that's something you got to be aware of. It's a free kill for Shyvana, really, just because she ganks. She knows the situation and ganks after pushing her lane, destroys minions. She's going to head back up there. So Akali gets killed first. It really isn't the biggest deal. It happens. You can come back as an assassin. Assassin does, especially when they think they're ahead. You can get some kills just because they think they're ahead. So in some ways it can work out for you. And when you're playing an assassin like Akali, she farms really well with all that bonus magic damage onto her auto attacks. It makes farming not hard, and with her Q and it's energy based, so it's not mana, she can really have some tools to keep her farm going, and you need to get that farm going so you can do a lot of burst damage. As an assassin, it's not about how much life you have, it's about how much life your opponents has. I mean, your life has something to do with it, but as soon as you can poke them down low, you can go for the kills most of the time, depending on where they're at. You'll learn how to play them if you play the same one consistently. That's how you play them, is you try to poke down your opponent or trade until you can go for it. Full-on engages are a little scary before you get farmed. Once you get farmed up, you can 100-0 someone, but it's really hard before then. And this is going to be the second use of Shroud, and a very good use. Amumu sucks because you take damage even in your Shroud, and Gragas is kind of the same way. He has those barrels. So, here we're going to talk about getting Dove. When Assassin gets Dove, they're fairly safe to trade damage because the tower is going to be shooting in and doing a lot of damage on its own, and that makes it a little safer for you. Where she makes mistakes here is she eats that barrel, and he wasn't even farming with it. You just gotta watch out for that. And he's gonna come in and run his ult. But with the Shroud, he doesn't know where to go. He gets a lucky poke in. And now he's on the wrong side of the tower. So by her stopping and hitting and killing that minion, Gragas takes that one shot. And the way Akali works is her Q procs damage, and then it leaves a mark, meaning if you hit him, that it will proc more damage. So she uses her ultimate to kick him and do some damage, and then hits him with an auto attack. Sorry for that, but hits him with an auto attack, and that procs the mark to go away, and that does double damage of her Q, and that is how she does so much burst damage. That's the combo. You hit Q, and if you wait a second, then it'll be ready to go again in just a second, and you can R in to avoid the skill shots of Gragas, and Gragas can't do anything about it as he takes the ultimate and it takes off the mark, and he just dies instantly. So like I said, it's more about their hit points than your hit points, as she was extremely low there, but there was nothing that Gragas could do other than walk up, chase the kill, and get killed for it. And sometimes you want to kite like that just to get your timer back up. Your Q could be down, or your W, you didn't have your Shroud. With that Shroud, you can surprise people, pop in, or hit them if it didn't quite kill them, Shroud to get out of it so they don't know what's going on and they have a hard time hitting you. So that's what Akali brings to the table in the mid lane. And here she's just going to go for a full engage, and it's not necessarily a great idea until you have way better items than them. If she would have done this while he didn't have Ignite, she would have won this. But she takes the ultimate and then quite a bit of creep damage, finishes him off, but there's the Ignite ticking away. I think her only chance to escape would have been to try to spell vamp off those creeps. I don't think there was much she could do there. Had she not fought him with his Ignite up, she probably could have done this. But fighting him full out when Gragas has Ignite means you'll probably just trade deaths. And so that's going to get her some more gold, though, and gold on Gragas is not as scary as gold on an assassin, at least for the laning phase. So in some ways this turns out okay, and she'll be fine overall. What you want to do is poke them down so that you can burst them so fast they can't return the damage. And she's going to start doing that once she gets better items. You'll kind of watch how it works. And that is the role of the assassin, though, is to get the kills in the lane. It's not just to out-farm them, it's to hold them down, kill them, make sure that Gragas doesn't become that super-fed 200 minions at 20 CS type Gragas, but a Gragas who's something like, at this point, you can't do worse than what, like, you want him 1-4, 1-5, you don't want him to get going, and you want a CS to be down, and if he's dead a lot, that'll happen. And she has quite a bit of sustain once she gets the Gunblade built up, because you have Lifesteal, tons of Spell Vamp with her passive. It's kind of sick thinking about it, but she gets quite a bit of Spell Vamp and quite a bit of Lifesteal. And this is kind of the role of the solo lane assassin. I put this out a little bit in front. So instead of going for the full kill, she chases them off and bursts out half his damage. So she has her full combo back up, which she won't because she used 2 of her ults. So now she needs to buy time while he's a little scared. So at this point, you're trying to buy time and let every 15 or 25 seconds, I think it might be 25 seconds at just a level 1, but every once in a while you get that tick onto your ult until you can stack it 3 deep. Once it's stacked 3 deep, you could really make plays because you can kick to a minion, you can kick to them, you can kick back to them, and you can be double procking your mark of your Q, your mark of the assassin. You could just be landing the mark, kicking them, hitting them, taking off more life. So at this point, all she really needs is for Gragas to push out past this tower, and she can jump on him because he's not full life anymore. You saw how much damage she did when he was full life. So the longer it takes to push out, and the unfortunate thing for Gragas, if she's just last hitting, his abilities do AoE damage to hitting multiple creeps and doing lots of damage and taking up a decent amount of mana. So that's going to make it so that he's going to push out this lane eventually. There's just not much he can do to stop it. He can give up the CS, but that's not really worth it either for him. And so when you're playing an assassin, you look at him at half-life and you play this patience game. And the big thing he has to save him is his ultimate can knock you away, and you have to use an extra shadow dash, shadow walk to get up to him. And so you kind of have to play it and try to shadow over his ultimate, or past a barrel at least, and not take as much damage. So here he throws his ultimate, and she shadows past it, and he's going to run, but that's right to a ward, and she can just catch up that quick. She is super hard to kite as she has a couple of those going around, as she can just jump to you so many times, and it does so much damage, especially stacked with her Q, and her Q has a quicker cooldown time than it does it'll last. The mark will last longer than the cooldown. That's what I'm trying to say with that. And so you can hit Q on them, wait RN, hit it, and have Q right back up where you can Q them again, and you can get the double hits on the Q, and not just by taking your own hits and extending them by actually autoing them, but actually Q them, do the damage, auto them, do the damage, Q immediately, and then auto again. And within 2 auto attacks, do so much damage. And you want to be the last one in, and that needs to be your motto when you're fighting. So the thing, what I mean by that is you are an assassin. You are not a tank. It doesn't matter that your team says you're kill stealing or whatever. That is your job with an assassin, and people may not like it, but you have to be the last one in the fights. You want to just go in, burst out a lot of damage, and be able to get out of there, or finish off the kill. You don't ever want to be the bait as an assassin. You don't bait as an assassin. You are the person who goes in last. They go for your teammates, they initiate a fight, you take out someone. And that's how you want to play this. 6 assassins and team fights. And sped it up really fast to get out here and just show you how this fight goes down. Is she's kind of the last one on her team in, so she takes out Blitzcrank right away and takes out a Moo. And the reason you want to go for them instead of diving is the fact that you want the champion with the easiest escape route and who will die, and so you don't want to be diving too deep into their team because you're just going to get killed for it, and your role is to do damage. And here she goes on the hunt and knows that, oh, we'll replay this, I'm very sorry, replaying the fight first. So what you want to see here is what a damage dealer, especially an assassin that is squishy and doesn't want to tank it all, does in a fight. So there's a fight kind of in the bottom jungle, and she's going to run into Gragas and poke him, and he's not going to want any part of this damage trade. That's a good trade for her, especially with Taric right there. And he's going to go over the wall, and so you've kind of knocked him out of position where he can still do stuff in the fight, but he's not really as thorough in the fight. Ults everyone away, she comes in right afterwards and just bursts Blitzcrank down in a hurry. He does not last very long, and a Moo-Moo's not going to last much longer. And as much as a Moo-Moo's not the primary target usually, he's the one that's extended and safe to kill, and you can kill him, so you might as well. And now at this point they have Corki and Gragas, 2 squishy champions. This is ideal for an assassin, and this is what you want. At this point, hits Corki, Corki's going to Valkyrie away, and Gragas is the easy target now. So they don't really have much, he'd already ulted, to knock you away or get you off. They have no peel, and so they can't really kite you. You're gonna finish that off. Your ult comes up faster than his. And so he kind of went for the kill, hoping he'd get something out of this death. He doesn't. And here, with 3 dead members and Shyvana clearly visible on the map on top, you can dive for Corki here. Now, if there were not 3 dead members and Shyvana was on the way down, this would be a very dangerous play. So when you make these decisions to dive in between towers and finish people off, look at who's up and look at your mini-map. As soon as you saw Shyvana top, who's probably the one person who's still up with Akali right now, in as far as strength goes, then you're safe to dive this. There's nothing they can do to stop you. But if Shyvana had been on your map in the middle or down, or you didn't know where Shyvana was, that could have been a very dangerous play that led to your death. And here she's going to roam, and they back immediately out. You can just see the back off, the speed on which Blitz and Corki are getting out of there. In that case, just go right back to your lane. But it's always good to have that pressure. Let them know you're going to start roaming. Let them feel the pressure that is an assassin coming out of the mid lane to put global map pressure down. You want to roam as much as you can at this point. If you can't be getting kills in your lane, then you want to be getting kills all around the map. And that's just the way you play an assassin, is you want to be looking for those situations. And so here we're going to see this, once you get fed and you get that item, and now you have that Hex Tech that does some damage on its own as an active item, is how much damage can you do in your burst combo. And I just want you to watch this. She shadow dashes, and he gets to the tower, and he takes a drink thinking he's going to be okay, and he gets finished off in just seconds. And that is what happens when you have your Q ready for a double proc, meaning you have a mark on them, and then you don't really go into the tower until the Q cooldown comes back up, and you can finish off the mark, start a new one, auto again, and it does so much damage they weren't even ready for it. She also drops her Hex Tech in this fight about right here, and is able to just do all this burst damage under the tower. And she still has a Shadow Walk away to get out of the taking too many tower hits, and she is just fine after that kill. And so now you have to think, I just got a kill in the mid, and your team let them know, hey, I killed the mid, let's do dragon. The thing is, at this point, is now you have 4 full members here, and their bottom lane comes up, you can kill any of them. If their jungler comes, you can kill him. So it's just a free dragon, free objective. Now your whole team turns around and goes right for their bottom lane, because their bottom lane was a little curious, are they really doing dragon? You know, that little dance people do. And Nautilus is able to lock down Blitzcrank long enough for you to go assassinate, be the last one in, get the kill, get fed, and now you can basically blow up anyone but Shyvana on this map, and you can take Shyvana if you have people from your team there, but you just don't want to be the one to initiate that fight. She's pretty tanky, she's pretty beefy, and she is not behind. She's not the same as anyone else on the map. Now, anyone else on the map caught at all, and you can basically burst them down. This time Gragas uses his ult correctly, she takes a lot of damage, and is going to have to base. And with the Shroud, it's not very difficult. Here comes Nautilus. Nautilus has all that CC, and if he has his ult up, Akali at low life could probably finish Gragas anyways. And the last thing that we're going to talk about in this game is the concept of whether to defend or concede a tower, and it really matters whether you can defend it. And in this case, Shyvana's so big that with Gragas there, she really can't defend it because Shyvana's just going to wreck her. And so she kind of has to concede the tower and give up that free damage. She can poke in, but standing next to Shyvana's going to be a bad thing. So even with Taric there, there's not much they can do, and they concede the tower. Thank you for listening. That will be the end of this review time. We'll start with number 1, using Shroud. And this is very character specific, but it works for other escapes. Is she uses the Shroud to shield and get off into angles where she's not being attacked directly by that champion anymore. The problem in the Shroud is the fact that you have Shyvana, Gragas, Amumu that can all do area damage. In this play, she's going to use the Shroud to try to get away from Gragas and make it hard for him to track him down. Gragas cuts off the going back to the tower route, and she does the right thing, gets behind Nautilus. Unfortunately for her, Shyvana pushed so hard and so fast that Shyvana was able to go make a play as she heads towards the side brush. Had Shyvana not been right in that position, she could have escaped, overpassed the other brush, up the ramp, and gone back to base. Unfortunately, Shyvana's there. Shyvana picks up that early kill. That's what happens on that use of the Shroud, even though she did use it at a very appropriate time. The second time we see this Shroud, Amumu jumps in, and like I said, he does damage even though you're in the Shroud. And they kind of cut off her forward progress, and she doubles back, and since she didn't appear forward, they're going to jump in and go backwards to try to protect it. They didn't split up, and it allows her to make a double move and come back. You can see how he's doing the damage through the shroud, and then she makes that move backwards, and they don't know exactly where she is, but since she hadn't appeared, they were assuming she was making a backwards escape, go to cut it off, and she makes the escape back through the brush. Very clever play. And gets out. That is how you use your shroud if you play Akali. Getting dove, number 2. Getting dove can sometimes lead to some of your best plays and making crazy plays. So as she gets away, she didn't even have time to base, even with that low life, and somehow she makes this play, even though she eats several barrels and barely escapes with life, but she's an assassin who does a ton of damage. And Gragas really wants this kill, so he's going to really dive and take tower shots, and it's really not worth it for him. So he took a tower shot for a barrel, which is an okay trade, and uses his ult, but the shroud makes it hard on Gragas to find her. Even though he still lands that, he's going to try to cut back through instead of going around, but she killed the minion, so he takes one tower shot there, and then with their QR combo and then an auto attack is enough to finish Gragas off. So as he's coming, he lands the 1 and takes the tower hit for it early. And as soon as she hits level 6, which she was 5 at the beginning of this dive, but the minions are dying, so she gets to level 6 and gets that Shadow Walk, which really makes this play happen. And so as he ults her, knocks her back, and lands that lucky barrel through the shroud, he's going to take too many tower hits there and too many tower hits on the way back because she cleared that one minion. So as she shrouds and gets away, that one minion's going to go down, and the second tower hit's going to come in, and that leaves him low enough to do an assassin's job, which is their low hit points means more than your low hit points because you do so much burst damage. You just have to be able to close the gap and get the damage in. 3 is the full engage. As an assassin, if you can't 100 to 0 them in one combo, you don't want to fully engage, at least not when they have ignite. If he doesn't have ignite, this might have worked okay, but he didn't use ignite in the last fight, so he's sitting around and he still has his ignite up. So as they're trading damage, she's doing pretty good with it. He just lands his ultimate, which is really easy to land there. And as she comes in and closes off the kill, he had enough time to drop ignite, which he didn't do last time, and that's going to get him the kill back. And so you can see how they're both full, both 6. She's really not that significantly ahead and can't burst him in one combo, and that's what the difference is on this. Is she can do a lot of damage and she gets ahead in this trade, and when she gets bursted back she takes the creep damage, which she gets out of really quick, but she's able to use her ult, get back in position, finish Gragas off, but he had enough time to land his ignite back because you don't really have a stun, you just do a lot of damage, and so you can't really stop them from doing something to you in return. And so she shrouds, but that doesn't do any good. She needed to run over and lifesteal off the minions, but honestly, there's no wave there. She was going to take the damage from the minions. She was pretty done for there. 4, solo lane assassin. And that is when you don't really need your jungler. All you need is your burst combo and these trades. So she's going to be trading, knocking him low. Him returning the damage isn't as big of a deal as him going down under half-life. Because a half-life Gragas not under a tower is a very easy target for an assassin. And that's not necessarily to knock on Gragas, it's the same way for about anybody. Is if you're at half-life and they're an assassin that does burst damage, they're gonna be able to jump on you. So here, she takes the 1 barrel but avoids the ultimate and gets past him with her Shadow Walk, and as he tries to run away, it's warded and she's able to close it in real quick. She's extremely hard to kite, so consider that when going against an assassin. Is here they're full at the beginning of the trading. A couple trades in, he's running away and he's lost a third of his life. And this is kind of the overall process broken down. Is there, she tower dies him, gets him under half. He's going to try to sustain away and keep up, but half-life is too dangerous. So he's at a third life, and he's going to get it back a little bit better, and he's going to knock her down more with some of his barrels. But as Gragas, he pushes out the lane with his barrels because he does AoE damage, and she's just last hitting, and it makes him force the lane forward. And as soon as the lane's forward, he's out of position. And if you're past midway through the lane at under half-life, or even at half-life, against an assassin, they're going to jump on you to kill you. So unless you have your jungler right there ready to make a play, it's just not. This is how it's going to result more often than not. So try to consider when playing against assassins how to do it. And when you are an assassin, that's the situation you want. 5, being the last one in. This is your creed as an assassin. You are not the tank. You are not the initiator. You don't start fights. You finish them. So you clean up these minions and you see that your team's going to be fighting. And so as they're doing all this sustained damage, you get in there last after everyone else and you can just finish off kills in a hurry. And that is your job. It isn't KSing. It's kill securing. That's what you do. That is how an assassin plays. So as soon as you see the fight and they're actually engaged, she takes off full speed. But it's after they've engaged, not just standing in the brush. You're not trying to discover if they're there or not. You don't want to be that person. Let someone else do it. So there you see them all, and then you can just jump in and burst down a champion. And that is the best part, the funnest part about playing Assassin. 6, Assassins in team battles. As Assassin in team battle, as much as you want to go for their squishy champions, it's only when you can get there safely. You have to consider that into your line of thought. So she runs into Gragas and harasses him, and with Tarek there, he just wants to get over the wall and be done with that. He doesn't want to fight Akali without a tower by him. As Gragas kind of tries to wreck the fight and blow everyone away, she's able to then initiate right on to Blitzcrank. She wants to go for Corki, but that would get her past everyone and she'd be the focus. Instead, she goes for the people who are extending and diving for her teammates. That makes her not the focus, yet she can do a ton of damage and takes out the 2 tanky champions. Now she only has squishy champions to deal with, and there's no tanks to stop her initiations here. Gragas has already used his ult. He has nothing to get away, and you have no ability to kite since her timer comes up on like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and yours is a couple minutes. He's got really nothing to do to get away, so he's just going to turn and hopefully get a kill on Graves. He's not able to pull it off, and she gets a free kill on him, but that should have got Corki away. And that's what you're going for maybe there, is you're not going to escape. Why lead him right into your other squishy teammate? And so she gets the harass early to make Gragas a little bit lower going into the fight. And Gragas is able to chunk most of the team, but as an assassin, she wasn't in there, so she didn't take that damage. And she shows up at a good time, able to take out Blitzcrank. He's gone, and Amumu's the person who's overextended and the safest kill. You want to go for the safest kill. Sometimes you want to dive onto the carries. It depends how the fight's going. But here you probably want to stay safe. You don't want to get focused by Amumu with Gragas and Corki, because you can go down as quick as they're going down. And so as Gragas goes for the quick kill on Graves, as he isn't going to outrun an Akali, he just gets himself killed, and that's what happens. And immediately following this play is our next point, which is 7, hunting. When you're hunting past towers to take people out, you need to consider some things. So what just happened was 3 people just got killed. And so they are not lurking in the brushes to kill you. You can also look at your mini-map and see Shyvana on the top, making this a safe play. So she's able to jump on Corki with no backlash. Shyvana can't get there and do anything. She's clear up at the top of the map. And Corki's backing off, and you see that. Shyvana's top, and 3 are dead. So if you dive, that puts the other all of his teammates are not there. Can't be there, giving you a one-on-one situation against a squishy AD carry. Great situation to be an assassin in this place. And this is when you want to go hunting, and you can dive blindly through their woods and their backwoods, their jungle, and their lanes. You're safe doing this. You are not safe doing that if Shyvana is missing. 8, Assassin's Burst. The Assassin's Burst is exactly how much damage you do when you start getting your item builds. And you need to know this and when you can 100 to 0 people. Because when you can 100 to 0 people, you can kind of patiently wait for them to farm and then do exactly this. So she uses ult to get in. She uses her second ult, Q, auto attack combo to do a ton of damage. Her Q's coming right back up. There it is. And he stops to have a drink instead of running because he assumes when he's under the tower he's safe. And she still had one more charge on her ult, and she's able to jump right back out of there without taking too much. So here it is. He's 100% life. She uses the gap closer to get to a minion to get close. She uses her second gap closer, and he stops. That's what I'm trying to indicate with that mark. There's a tower there, so he's like, I made it. And how quickly he falls from half-life under the tower is enough for her to take exactly 2 tower shots, dash away, and she's just fine. And with all that spell vamp, able to sustain it right back up. No harm, no foul, no damage. 9 is mid and dragon, and when you're mid, it's just like bottom. When you get kills bottom, I preach that you take dragon, take an objective, take their blue buff. It's the same thing with mid. You can take their blue buff, the dragon for free. There's nothing they can do to stop you if you've killed the mid. So as Gragas is counting down, Shyvana's in the top lane. All they could do is send their AD carry, their support, and their jungler, and right now you're doing so much damage with the Akali that they can't do anything to stop you. And after you get the dragon and give your team a bonus, Nautilus locks down Blitzcrank. You're able to run up and take a kill. So that is your reward for taking dragon for your team by you getting that solo kill in lane. You get the dragon for bonus gold. So you get the kill gold, you get the dragon, and you chase down their Blitzcrank, who gets out of position even though you guys are taking dragon, and allows himself to be caught by 4 people. At that point, you're not safe. There's no mid, there's no jungle pressure. You know the mid's missing because they just killed your mid and you don't see him on the map. Don't go poking your face out a dragon, but don't assume you're safe either, because an assassin will do just this, especially with the CC machine like Nautilus on his team. 10. Defend or concede tower. And I've talked about this in some of my AD carry videos, is when you are holding a tower, the one thing you cannot do is stand around at your tower, and if they're going to take it, be out of position without a tower to defend you and protect you. And so she had a decision to make, said, I can't take Shyvana right now, and she backs off and concedes the tower. So that was an okay decision there. You can back off and concede the tower, or you can fully defend the tower. The one thing you cannot do is kind of hover around the tower, let them kill the tower and then gank you for when you're just out of position and you're like, there was a tower there a minute ago. Well, the tower's gone. And so the first thing that happened was Nautilus died. The second thing that happened is they realized, oh, with Amumu and Gragas and Shyvana there, I don't even know if I can take Shyvana. Shyvana's dominating this game. She's super tanky. I won't burst her down. I have to concede the tower. Thank you for listening to this game. I hope you learned something. Good luck in your future games.